Welcome back to my channel. HBO Max has now released all their movies for the year, so today we're ranking all 6 of them from worst to best. Before we begin, let me know in the comments your thoughts on HBO Max's movies, as well as your lists. As a reminder with these videos, this isn't meant to be a definitive ranking, just my personal list. So let me know in the comments what your lists are so we can discuss. And make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these videos, because it helps me out immensely if you do that. Plus, if you're new here and you like movies, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. Also worth noting, there are 2 movies I'm leaving off here because even though they're on or will be on HBO Max, they're not HBO Max originals, but some may think that they should get grouped in with these. One is Bad Education, the Hugh Jackman movie that premiered back in April, which I did review, but it premiered on HBO itself and isn't a Max exclusive, especially given it didn't launch until after this movie was released, so that won't count towards this list, even though it is a great movie and would have been a number 1, to be honest. The other is Wonder Woman 1984, which should be obvious since it's not even out yet and I'm doing this list now, but even though it's premiering on HBO Max, it's not an exclusive. This is getting the same treatment as Warner Brothers' 2021 movies, where it's also premiering in theaters the same day it's out on HBO Max, and then after a month it's getting pulled and won't be back on the platform until the normal length of time has passed between a movie's theatrical release and streaming release. So that won't be included, and with all that being said, let's jump right into it. In last place is Superintelligence, the Melissa McCarthy comedy where an artificial intelligence, voiced by James Corden, follows her around in order to make its decision as to whether or not it wants to destroy the world. The premise of this is okay. I'm sure it could have worked with the right script, but this movie just doesn't know what it wants to be. It tries to be this buddy comedy with Melissa McCarthy and James Corden, then it tries to be this sorta spy comedy with the government getting involved, but then it also tries to be this sweet rom-com where she tries getting together with Bobby Cannavale at Corden's insistence. And it's just all over the place and really unfocused. Though that would easily be forgivable if it were just funny. This is a painfully unfunny movie, and it's a waste of all these actors' talents. James Corden has a few funny moments here and there with some self-aware humor, but these moments are few and far in between, and it's not even close to being enough to save the movie. Melissa McCarthy just has this one shtick where she's just like, no, you can't do that, oh my god, this is crazy, over and over and over again, anytime the AI does well, anything. All she does is react to everything with this timid, frightened look the entire time. It gets old fast and is one of the many reasons this is a pretty terrible movie. Next up is The Witches, Robert Zemeckis' remake of the 1990 cult classic with Anne Hathaway, Octavia Spencer, Stanley Tucci, and Chris Rock. I still have yet to check out the original. This should have at least been a lot better than it actually was. Robert Zemeckis, when he hits, is someone who can capture the magic and fun of a story, no matter what it is. So him adapting a Roald Dahl story should have been a match made in heaven, but it turns out to just be okay. I actually thought this was a little better than what most audiences thought about it, but it's still pretty forgettable. Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer are both great, and it can be kind of funny at times. The problem is it plays things pretty safe. It seems to think of itself as darker than it actually is, and honestly, it should have been given the subject matter, because things get resolved way too quickly, characters will get to where they need to go almost too easily, there will always be a plan in place for whatever it is they need to do next, and I get that it's also trying to appeal to kids, but everything feels so oversimplified that you don't always feel the stakes as a result. On top of the fact that the CGI can be really bad, and it'll just take you out of the moment. It's entertaining at times, I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's nothing I care to rewatch anytime soon. In 4th place is Let Them All Talk, the most recent film on this list, which is from Steven Soderbergh and has a great cast that includes Meryl Streep, Candice Bergen, Diane Weiss, Lucas Hedges, and Gemma Chan. This one's gonna be polarizing. You can see it especially as it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 91% as of now, but the audience score is 49%, so pretty big disparity right there. It's about a group of people on the ship all talking and reflecting on their past, their views on life, and what the future may bring. And it really lives up to its title, which will be the reason so many people will be divided. It's 2 hours of nothing but various conversations had on the ship. It has its share of emotional moments, but it's not 2 hours of snappy dialogue and powerful monologues. A lot of the movie's actually improvised, and it'll be filled with exposition, and at times mundane dialogue that doesn't have too much to do with the overall story. In fact, you're not even sure where it's going right away. So it leads to a pretty shaky first half. There are 2 storylines going on, one with Streep, Bergen, and Weiss, and another with Hedges and Chan, the latter of which is by far the better storyline. And as both stories, that one especially, come into their own in the second hour, it gets considerably better. So it does make up for things. The performances are all enjoyable, and the good does outweigh the bad, but it's definitely not going to be for everyone. Coming in at number 3 movie is Unpregnant. I enjoyed this one, though it's another movie that will be pretty polarizing. It actually received some pretty heavy backlash when the trailer dropped, as it's a buddy road trip comedy starring Haley Lou Richardson as a high schooler who needs to get an abortion and travels with her former friend, played by Barbie Ferreira, in order to get to a clinic. It's essentially a more comedic take on another film from much earlier this year called Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and it got a lot of criticism for taking a subject such as abortion and turning it into a comedy. The thing is, as funny as it can be, all the humor stems from the relationship between our two main characters, as well as some of the encounters they have along the way, with actors such as Breckin Meyer, Giancarlo Esposito, and Betty Who popping up in glorified cameos. And when it touches upon anything regarding the abortion itself, it really handles it with care and actually has plenty to say on the subject. This is a much more emotional movie than you think it would be, and for all the jokes it makes, it's actually very mature. And it's anchored by a fantastic lead performance by Haley Lou Richardson, who has a lot of great star potential in the years to come. It's a movie that's going to be judged heavily before it's even seen, but if you give it a chance, you may find yourself surprised. Our runner-up is Charm City Kings. This is a coming-of-age tale about a young boy who really wants to join this biker gang and gets a taste for that life when its leader, played by Meek Mill, takes him under his wing and has him divided over what his family wants and what he wants. This will feel very familiar in many regards. I wouldn't call it totally predictable, but some of the dramatic beats are definitely things we've seen in countless other movies. This still works though, and that's mainly due to the performances. This is Meek Mill's acting debut, which is partially why this had a decent amount of buzz going in, and he's very good here. He may actually be the best part of this movie. He plays a very nuanced, somewhat torn mentor figure to this young kid who doesn't want him to become like him, though he'll find himself in some difficult situations of his own. Even though it may feel like other coming-of-age dramas, it does give us a lot of great fleshed-out characters. Jahi Diallo Winston is a very compelling lead, and Tiana Paris also does a fantastic job as his mother. And with all these great characters and performances, it does cause the movie to feel like it goes on for just a bit too long, but it won't ruin the experience for you. And on the strengths of these performances, it's definitely worth checking out. In first place though is An American Pickle. And I can't believe I'm saying this, believe me. But hey, I actually really enjoy the movie. It's a ridiculous premise, don't get me wrong. When you hear how it's about Seth Rogen falling into a vat of pickles and getting brined for 100 years, you don't expect much. And honestly, in the wrong hands, this could have went really bad. But this works surprisingly well, I gotta say, and that's thanks to a well-written screenplay by Simon Rich. It has a typical fish-out-of-water setup, but it's a very funny film, thanks to Seth Rogen giving us not one, but two performances as both Herschel, the man who was pickled, as well as his great-grandson Ben. A lot of this movie focuses on Ben trying to get Herschel accustomed to life in the modern day, and while some jokes are exactly what you'd expect, where there are these typical misunderstandings because of Herschel's lack of knowledge of the last 100 years, there's also a nice story in there about the importance of family and how to move forward with life, especially when dealing with grief. Despite its premise, it can be sweet, and it can have a pretty big heart. Some people may be put off by this because of its setup, but if you give it a chance, you may end up having a good time. I definitely enjoyed it, and I found it to be effective enough to be my #1 HBO Max movie of the year. And that's that. Not a bad first year for this streaming service. Obviously not everything's gonna land, but we did get some nice surprises here. And I think given how it's now received a huge boost in subscriptions due to Warner Brothers' bigger movies premiering on there throughout 2021, hopefully that'll mean whatever original content makes its way onto the platform will get even more recognition. We'll see though. This is also going to be the first of a number of end-of-year lists. In the coming weeks I'll be discussing the movies of Apple TV+, Hulu, Disney+, as well as Netflix. So stay tuned for all that and much more coming soon. But let me know, what was your favorite HBO Max movie this year? Did you agree with this list? Did you not agree with it? Did you see all these movies? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.